Iceland is one of those places that looks unreal online, but feels even more powerful when you are actually there. This was my second time in Iceland, and after regretting one big mistake on my first trip renting a car, I wanted to experience the country in a smarter and less stressful way. Welcome to my Iceland travel guide, where I'll share my real travel experience, the best places to visit, what to do, where to stay, what to eat, real travel costs, and the mistakes you should avoid. I also explored Iceland's famous routes with Glasgow and my local friend Mr. Hamid, so I'll honestly show you what made this trip easier and more enjoyable. Iceland is not just famous for waterfalls, volcanoes, glaciers, black sand beaches, hot springs, and the northern lights. What surprised me most is how the landscape can completely change every few minutes. Located in the North Atlantic between Europe and North America, close to the Arctic Circle, Iceland feels remote, wild, and cinematic from the moment you arrive. For travelers, it offers road trips, glacier adventures, whale watching, geothermal lagoons, and some of the most unique natural scenery you can experience anywhere in the world. I visited Iceland for 3 days after a long Scotland trip, so I didn't want to rush from the very first moment. On my first day, I kept things slow in Reykjavik, walked around the city, rested a little, and tried to feel the atmosphere before heading into Iceland's wild nature. For the next 2 days, I explored the Golden Circle and the south coast with Glasgow and my local friend Mr. Hamid, which made the trip much easier, especially with Iceland's long roads, changing weather, and dramatic landscapes. This video will give you the full overview of my Iceland experience, and in my upcoming videos, I'll share the detailed day-by-day itinerary. Reykjavik downtown is the best place to begin your Iceland trip, with colorful streets, cozy cafes, the Sun Voyager, Harpa Concert Hall, and Hallgrímskirkja, where entering the church is usually free, but the tower viewpoint requires a paid ticket. The Golden Circle is Iceland's classic day trip from Reykjavik, taking you through Þingvellir National Park, the Geysir geothermal area, and Gullfoss Waterfall in one powerful 250-kilometer route. For a relaxing break, Blue Lagoon or Sky Lagoon offers one of the most iconic geothermal experiences in Iceland, but both require paid entry, so booking in advance is usually the safest choice. The South Coast waterfalls are some of the most unforgettable stops in the country, especially Skogafoss, Seljalandfoss, and Kvernufoss, where you can feel the raw power of Icelandic nature right in front of you. Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach and Vik show Iceland at its wildest, with black volcanic sand, dramatic basalt columns, powerful waves, and one of the most cinematic coastal landscapes in the country. Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon feels almost unreal, with floating icebergs, seals, and the nearby Diamond Beach creating one of the most magical scenes in Iceland. Vatnajökull National Park is perfect for travelers who want glaciers, ice caves, hiking trails, waterfalls, and some of the most extreme natural scenery in Europe. Snæfellsnes Peninsula is often called Iceland in miniature, because in one region you can experience mountains, lava fields, beaches, fishing villages, cliffs, and the famous Kirkjufell. Lake Mývatn and North Iceland are ideal if you want geothermal areas, volcanic landscapes, lava fields, waterfalls, whale watching, and fewer crowds than the south. The Icelandic Highlands and Landmannalaugar are made for more adventurous travelers, with colorful rhyolite mountains, hot springs, wild roads, and landscapes that feel like another planet. But if you have limited time like I did, choosing the right route becomes the most important part of your Iceland trip. For my limited time in Iceland, doing scenic day trips with Glasgow made the experience much easier, because local guides help you enjoy the wild nature, long roads, and constantly changing weather without unnecessary stress. Chasing the northern lights is one of the most magical experiences in Iceland, but it is mainly possible from September to April, and guided tours usually cost extra. Relaxing in a geothermal hot spring is a must, especially at places like Blue Lagoon or Sky Lagoon, where entry is paid and advance booking is highly recommended. Walking behind the waterfall, especially at Seljalandfoss, is one of those unforgettable moments that makes Iceland feel like a movie. Exploring black sand beaches like Reynisfjara is breathtaking, but you should always stay far away from the dangerous sneaker waves. Hiking on a glacier is one of Iceland's most exciting adventures, and it should always be done with a professional guide because the activity is paid and requires proper safety equipment. Visiting an ice cave is another bucket list experience, especially in winter, and most natural ice cave tours run from around November to March with a paid guided tour. Driving through volcanic landscapes is one of the most unique parts of Iceland travel, because even a simple road trip can feel like crossing another planet. Seeing floating icebergs at Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon is one of the most beautiful things to do in Iceland, especially when the ice drifts toward Diamond Beach. Watching whales in the ocean is also a popular Iceland activity, especially from Reykjavik or North Iceland, and whale watching tours are usually paid and more common from spring to autumn. The most convenient airport for Iceland travel is Keflavik International Airport, which is the country's main international gateway. From the airport you can reach Reykjavik by public bus or Flybus airport shuttle, while taxis are also available but usually quite expensive. If you stay in Reykjavik and want to explore Iceland with day trips, Glacigo worked very well for my own trip because it made the journey easier without the pressure of driving myself. If you prefer more independence, renting a car is also an option, but driving in Iceland can be tiring and stressful if you are not used to the long distances, changing weather, and wild landscapes. Once you are in Reykjavik city center, many places are easy to reach on foot, and you can also rent a scooter or bicycle, or use local taxis when needed. I personally chose Reykjavik downtown as my base, and for my trip, it was a very practical decision. It allowed me to enjoy the city center on a relaxed first day, while also staying in a convenient location for day trips from Reykjavik. We stayed at the Swan House by Heimalega, an Airbnb-style apartment for 2 people, and we paid around 190 euros per night. In the city center, you can find many hotels and apartment-style stays, while other parts of Iceland also offer more special accommodation experiences, such as Northern Light stays, geothermal spa hotels, farm stays, and local nature-based escapes. If you want to compare accommodation prices before booking, I'll leave useful links in the description. Yes, Iceland is one of the most expensive destinations in Europe, and from my experience, even if you are used to cities like Barcelona, Lisbon, Rome, London, or Paris, the prices can still feel surprisingly high. For tourists, a simple restaurant meal can be around 25 euros, a burger or fast food meal can cost around 18 to 22 euros, coffee is usually around 4 to 6 euros, and a mid-range dinner can easily go much higher. So, if you include accommodation, food, transport, tours, and small extras, a comfortable Iceland travel budget is usually around 220 to 350 euros per person per day. Yes, budget travel in Iceland is possible, but this is not a destination where you can travel cheaply without planning ahead. You can save money by choosing hostels or guest houses, eating supermarket meals, focusing on free nature spots, walking around Reykjavik, and using the Reykjavik city card if it fits your plan, but remember that regular public buses are not completely free. For a budget Iceland trip, you may need around 100 to 160 euros per person per day if you keep your accommodation simple, eat cheaper meals, avoid too many expensive restaurants, limit last-minute tours, and focus more on free outdoor experiences. In Iceland, you should definitely try local seafood, Icelandic fish and chips, lamb dishes, hot dogs, burgers with prime beef, langoustines, and the famous tomato soup at Fríðheimar if you visit the Golden Circle. But Reykjavik's food scene is not only about traditional Icelandic flavors. You can also find vegan options, street food, cozy cafes, bakeries, fine dining restaurants, and modern food halls. If you want to taste more in a short time, a food tour can also be a good idea, and I'll leave a few useful options in the description so you can compare them before your trip. Popular things to buy in Iceland include Icelandic wool sweaters, wool accessories, lava stone jewelry, local salt, skincare products, handmade ceramics, books, chocolate, and small souvenirs inspired by volcanoes, glaciers, puffins, and the northern lights. For gifts, I think wool items, local design products, Icelandic sea salt, and small handmade souvenirs feel much more meaningful than ordinary magnets, especially if you want to bring home something that truly feels connected to Iceland. Bargaining is not common in Iceland, so prices in shops, markets, and design stores are usually fixed. Nightlife in Iceland is mainly centered around Reykjavik, especially in the downtown area, where you can find bars, pubs, cocktail places, live music spots, small clubs, and cozy local venues. It is not the cheapest nightlife in Europe, but the atmosphere can feel fun, friendly, and very social, especially on weekends. What makes it truly memorable in summer is that the sun barely sets, so you may find yourself enjoying Reykjavik's nightlife in bright daylight. For a first Iceland trip, I think 3 to 5 days is enough to experience Reykjavik, the Golden Circle, and the South Coast. But 7 to 10 days is much better if you want to explore more of the country. You should wear layers, waterproof shoes, a warm jacket, gloves, and windproof clothes because Icelandic weather can change very quickly. Iceland is generally very safe, but nature can be dangerous, so never ignore road warnings, strong winds, glacier safety rules, or sneaker waves on black sand beaches. Local people are polite and calm, so respect nature. Avoid stopping in the middle of the road for photos. Never trespass on private land, and always leave places clean. The best time to visit Iceland depends on what you want to experience, because summer brings long daylight and easier road conditions, while winter is better for the northern lights and ice caves. Special seasons can also make your trip more memorable, with the midnight sun in summer, Christmas atmosphere in winter, Iceland airwaves in November, and the rare total solar eclipse on August 12, 2026. The currency is the Icelandic krona. The local language is Icelandic. English is widely spoken, and visa requirements depend on your passport because Iceland is part of the Schengen area. Tipping is not expected in Iceland, but it is always appreciated if you receive excellent service. For internet, I recommend using an eSIM like YesIM, and I'll leave a special price for my viewers through the links below. Useful apps for Iceland include Safe Travel, Vedur for weather, Google Maps, Parka or Easy Park for parking, and Aurora forecast apps if you want to chase the northern lights. And finally, one common tourist mistake is underestimating driving in Iceland. On my first visit, I rented a car and regretted it. But this time I joined Glassy Go and had a much more comfortable and stress-free experience. So, is Iceland worth visiting? Absolutely yes. It is one of those rare destinations where every road, every waterfall, and every landscape can leave you with a memory that feels bigger than the trip itself. I recommend Iceland for families, couples, solo travelers, photographers, nature lovers, road trip fans, adventure seekers, and even history lovers who want to feel the Viking spirit and Nordic culture. What I loved most was the raw power of nature and how cinematic every place felt, but what I disliked most was how expensive Iceland can be and how stressful the weather and long drives may feel. My honest advice is to plan your trip carefully, book important experiences early, and if you want a private tour experience, contact Glassy Go in advance to get an offer for the routes you want. If this guide helped you plan your Iceland trip, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more travel guides like this. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments here or under my YouTube videos and I'll be happy to reply.